Thanks to everyone for coming here to Busy Kids, and thank you to Busy Kids for having us here this morning for a really important update on some significant injection of funds into early childhood learning and care. It was quite a couple of months ago when we announced this investment fund that would go to areas like Broken Hill. And part of that fund, of course, was to expand the early learning capacity in areas like Broken Hill. This fund will provide it directly to services like Busy Kids to expand in order to be able to take in more places. Now, I tell you, there's nowhere else in New South Wales where the crisis of early childhood learning spaces is more acute than in rural, regional and remote New South Wales. I myself have been speaking to plenty of teachers over the last 24 hours who themselves say that whether they can stay or not teaching our children in primary and secondary schools will depend on whether they can access early childhood spaces. So this funding to go directly to services like Busy Kids to expand. In their cases, they're hoping to double the amount of places that we'll be able to have here as a result of this injection of funding. So they have more places and more staff, critically. That will make a real big difference to communities like Broken Hill as well as Cobar and really the rest of far western New South Wales. The crisis that we face in early childhood education is real. The workforce shortage is a real challenge across the state, even more acute in rural and regional and remote New South Wales. But this really represents a really good, small but positive step in the right direction. It's the government directly providing financial assistance to early childhood education and care facilities to grow. That's what we need. We need to do it for the productivity of local economies like here in Broken Hill, as well as for the educational outcomes that we want these beautiful children to achieve. When they go on to preschool and then to kindergarten, they've already started on the building blocks of literacy and numeracy before they even get to their best start assessment when they start their first day of kindergarten. Every principal that I have met since being the Minister for Education will tell me that they can tell the difference in the children that have accessed early childhood learning and those that haven't. So this is about making sure that, say, where we are right now, they can offer double the amount of places so more and more children access the life-changing opportunity of early childhood learning. I'll pass over to Minister Tara Moriarty for more details on how this fund is working.
Thank you, Prue, and it's great to be here in Broken Hill with both the Premier and the Deputy Premier today. A good indication of how strongly the government feels about the communities across the far west of New South Wales. And this is the first round of funding out of our Regional Development Trust, and we have deliberately started in Western New South Wales, in the far west of New South Wales, with funding for things that people have told us they need here in this community. So this is our Western Workforce Activation Package, the first round out of this, $5.6 million, which is going directly to increasing the number of childcare places across communities in the far west of our state and to increase staff numbers to staff childcare in these communities. This is directly based on feedback from people in Broken Hill, in Burke, in Cobar, who have told us that they need childcare places. The children need places to be when parents need to go back to work. And the gaps that have been in place in these communities have meant it's not only difficult for children, but it means that parents can't take advantage of work opportunities that are available. And it also has been a thing that has restricted people from moving into these communities when jobs have become available. So we've been listening closely to communities across the far west, and that's why today this $5.6 million package is a direct response to the requests of communities like Broken Hill. So in Broken Hill today we are announcing the funding that will double capacity for places like this one. So for children to be in childcare centres like this one, that's a significant growth for a childcare centre like this one, and significant availability now for children. It will also be a growth in staffing numbers, which is also a significant request of the community. In Cobar, it will mean 102 new childcare places, which is a very big deal for the community community of Cobar, and I was able to talk to the Mayor Jared yesterday, who's very excited about the growth in childcare that will come from this direct funding. This is what we heard directly from the people of Cobar in terms of support that they wanted from the government. And in Burke, it will mean that there will be 40 extra places, so 20 after school care places and an additional 20 places in childcare centre in Burke, which is also a game changer for that community, and additional staffing resources. This funding will also go towards upgrading facilities in Broken Hill, in Burke and in Cobar for childcare facilities, which again has been a request directly from these communities. So the Minns Labor government is listening to communities of the Far West. This is a direct request from them, and this is the first round of the Regional Development Trust, which is going to supporting getting people back to work, getting people to move to fill vacancies, and getting people to be able to send their kids to childcare to be able to do both of those things. Direct request from those communities. So we'll continue to work with Broken Hill, with Cobar, with Burke, with all of the communities across the far west of New South Wales, and I'm certainly delighted to be able to deliver this funding along with the Premier and the Deputy Premier today, not only as the Minister for Regional New South Wales but also the Minister for Western New South Wales. We're certainly listening to the community out here, and I'll hand over to the Premier.
Thank you, Tara. It's great to be here with Tara and the Deputy Premier, the Minister for Education, Prue. It's a beautiful day in Broken Hill, and this is an important announcement for regional New South Wales. The bottom line here is that if we don't have childcare places, we won't keep families and we won't have people filling important jobs in towns like Broken Hill. We need to get this right. Do you want to... I'll wait for you.
Sorry, it's just getting it right.
That's okay.
It's very tight.
See, I know where the cameras are at all times. Who's blocking what camera?
Lighting matters.
Nah, got to get it right. Take two. It's great to be here. I won't go all the way back. The bottom line here is if we don't have childcare places, we won't keep families and we won't have people filling crucial jobs in regional communities. Jobs like teachers, nurses, employees in the mines. The lifeblood of regional communities relies on young families filling these important jobs, and increasingly, if we want mums and dads to have kids and put down roots in towns like Broken Hill, we have to supply and provide childcare places. So this is a much needed investment in the future of this town and other towns in far western New South Wales. We don't regard this as a drag on the budget. We don't consider it a spending item. We believe it's an investment. Two clear advantages from early childhood education funding. Number one, it makes a massive difference in that child's life throughout their schooling, throughout their professional life. There used to be a view, and the Deputy Premier has told this to the Cabinet many times, that the critical interventions were 15, 16, 17, the final years of school. Increasingly, we see a massive dividend for investment in the early years, pre-K. And that means governments are waking up to the importance of early childhood education as an investment in a child's education. Secondly, for families, we know that if we put down this kind of investment, we get a value add for a community. One of the great changes in my time in public life as a politician has been the growth in regional economies, particularly a tight labour market. It used to be the case that for many places there'd be high unemployment rates, a real lack of opportunity, particularly for young people who are up and leaving towns. For the first time in decades, we're now facing a situation where booming towns like Broken Hill and Walgett and Dubbo have got critical employment shortages in key industries, which are putting a dampener on their ability to grow and take advantage of this wave. Well, we need to make sure that there's services in place, particularly childcare, so that towns like Broken Hill and Dubbo and Cobar and Burke can reach their full potential. That's only going to happen with government investment. We regard this childcare announcement today as just that, an investment in the future. And we're all happy to take questions. Oh, actually, just before I get to questions, can I also mention later today there'll be a National Cabinet meeting online to discuss social media policy in Australia. I want to give credit to the Albanese government. It's been a long time coming, but so crucial that the federal government step up and put an age restriction of 16 for social media use in Australia. This is world leading. This will make a major difference not just to our country but to people around the world, because the world is watching Australia right now, and if we can do it, if we could protect young people from the dangers of access to online social media, which I regard as a global, unregulated experiment on the next generation, it'll make a major difference, particularly for young people. We've been concerned at the rising rates of mental health, anxiety, depression, and people who are attempting self-harm and take their own lives for young people in Australia. The nadir of that was in the late 1990s. Because of government efforts from 1990 to 2010, we saw a decline. Part of that was an anti-stigmatisation program that said that young people, particularly young men, should reach out and get help if they needed it. Major investment in mental health programs right across the governments, state and federal governments, and we saw a decline in the rate of youth suicide. We're now back up to the levels that we saw in the late 1990s. And the only plausible explanation for that is the ubiquitous, widespread use of social media. So something needed to change. Hats off to Anthony Albanese for making this change. It's absolutely required and needed in Australia, and this is true leadership on this issue. And we're all happy to take questions.
Community's been through a lot out here. You've obviously, brought the cabinet out. You had a chance to meet with locals last night. How do you think the government's response has been received by Broken Hill?
Yeah, look, I mean, we're not here to do a lap of honour. We need to make sure that we are responding to the needs on the ground. I think that there's definite areas for us to do better when there is another natural disaster, not just in Broken Hill but somewhere else. And that is more accurate information, more help on the ground as soon as possible, setting up a rec centre so that the public, particularly older people, know where they can get help. And I want to make sure that when inevitably, unfortunately, we have another natural disaster in the state, we can learn the lessons from the bushfires, the floods, and now this weather event in regional New South Wales to get better. So learnings for us. Secondly, I would say Transgrid's got a lot to answer for. The community is still hopping mad about their response to this. They've got a contract to supply power to this town, and it doesn't matter what they say on their media release, the lights went out. So answers are required from them. There are investigations that will continue in relation to their response, and I think that the town deserves answers for them.
Should the company be liable for some compensation, particularly for large-scale businesses? Like, some mines have had to put people, stand them down for weeks. Should Transgrid chip in there?
Yeah, look, obviously I'll leave it up to individuals to pursue their potential civil legal rights. But I would imagine that they're pursuing that right now, and I know that the legal support team, legal aid at the rec centre yesterday, there was a lot of inquiries in relation to just that issue. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was legal action pending. And I want the public to know, particularly the town of Broken Hill, that inquiries from IPART and the AER are continuing. Originally, there was some dismay that IPART's maximum penalty was $150,000, but the AER's maximum penalty is in the millions. So I hate to say this, but if we need to squeeze these utilities so they understand that they've got obligations to provide this service, then that's exactly what these oversight bodies and independent inquiries need to do.
At the moment, compensation for individuals, $200, $400 for small and medium businesses. That's only really come online yesterday.
Yeah.
Is that good enough?
Yeah, in all transparency, I genuinely believe that's as quick as we could do it. It was a bespoke service, and it was set up specifically for Broken Hill. We said from the very beginning when I came out here last week, we'd do it as soon as possible, but it wouldn't be within 24 or 48 hours. It was more likely to be a week. So I thank the public for their patience there. We tried to do it as quickly as we could. Unfortunately, it was unavoidable, but it's up and running now. My understanding is that for many people, the money's in their bank accounts, and for those that haven't applied, do it as soon as possible, because I know that a lot of families and a lot of businesses are out of pocket as a result of the electricity shutdown.
Could there be more financial assistance in the future, given that especially some small businesses lost, several $1,000s worth of stock?
Yeah, the answer to that is yes. We've conducted inquiries with local small businesses. That indicates a few things. Firstly, about 50% of businesses expect their liability to be covered by their insurance, and we don't want to let insurance companies off the hook here. That's why people pay their premiums, to get coverage when there is a natural disaster. But I'm not going to close the door on future compensation, particularly for retail stores. I don't want to see them go out the door backwards because of no fault of their own. This has been a natural disaster. Electricity should have been supplied and it wasn't.
Today, the government's also officially signed a lease with Hydra Store. Do you see that as an extra layer of security for Broken Hill?
Yeah, Hydra Store is exciting. I think it's the next iteration of renewable energy, particularly for the far west. But we've got to do a better job of standing up these major renewable energy projects and then providing the energy for the community. And I can understand why there's cynicism when there's billions of dollars going to a wind farm, a solar farm, or this new technology, and then the lights go out. People say, well, hang on, isn't there a wind farm down the road that could supply the energy? So there's got to be a job for us to do in getting coordinated with these utilities and ensuring that they can switch on when they're needed. Second point here is, and I don't raise this to be political, I do it for a very specific reason, but previous government sold off Transgrid. That's a utility providing an essential service to this community, and I just say to the people of Broken Hill and regional New South Wales in particular, after I'm gone and this government's gone, do not let a future government sell off essential energy. Don't let it happen. As sure as night follows day, some Premier will come along down the line and say, you know what we should do, we're in a tight pinch, we want to build another metro, or we want to refurbish Sydney Football Stadium. You know what we should do? We should sell off the remaining electricity provider. And the Broken Hill shutdown will be distant in everybody's memories. No one will remember it, or except for the people in Broken Hill. And they'll forget how important these utilities are. So my message is, don't let the Liberals and Nationals sell off the remaining energy provider, essential energy. You only know that you need it in public hands when the lights go out. But that's exactly what we need in public hands. We can't let it be sold off. I guess that was a bit political in the end, but...
Nurses have announced another 24-hour strike next week.
Yeah.
What's the government going to do to try to break this deadlock? You've had 4 weeks of intense negotiations. They've gone nowhere because this is going to affect probably hundreds of surgeries.
Yeah, look, I'm sorry about that. If you've got a planned surgery, I'm deeply sorry about it. I know that it's a huge inconvenience for families and particularly for those that have got elective surgery. The system's resilient, and our health workers do an incredible job, even when there's industrial action, in making sure that there's emergency care available. I'm sorry there hasn't been a breakthrough. I genuinely am. We wanted to get an outcome with the Nurses Association, with the union. We lifted the wages cap. We introduced the Industrial Relations Commission, but we just can't come to terms. I wish it was different. I wish we could announce a handshake deal this afternoon that would prevent a strike, but unfortunately we can't come to terms. In terms of a breakthrough, this is why we set up the Industrial Relations Commission. If we can't agree with them and they can't agree with us, let's let a judge decide. That's how it's worked in Australia or in New South Wales for over 100 years. The interregnum, the period when it stopped, was under the previous government, but look, you know, let's let the umpire sort it out. We're prepared to accept the umpire's decision. I'm hopeful the union is too.
Also, the prospect of strike action from the RTBU threatening to strike unless you agree to 24-hour rail services on weekends. Is that something you consider?
Yeah, look, I think the Transport Minister's going to say more about it soon. We'll do what we can. The RTBU put in about 200 claims, I understand, and quite genuinely, transport officials and the government have been working through them one by one. There's only a few outstanding. Now, it might be that the two sides are far away, but it's not through lack of trying or lack of engagement. So, look, I hope that there's not a disruption. I can't promise that today. I know that, and I can assure the public that intensive talks will continue, but if we're at loggerheads, it's not because we want industrial action or we want strikes. We want to get an outcome here, but obviously there's a limit to what the government can pay, and we've gone a lot further, and we want to go a lot further than the previous government, but I can only announce an outcome when all sides agree or there's a decision by the industrial umpire. Having said that, we were in a similar situation with the HSU. We came to an agreement with Crown employees. We came to an agreement with the Teachers Federation. We came to an agreement. So with tens of thousands of workers in New South Wales, we have long-term industrial awards that have been negotiated and agreed between the government and the union movement. So I'm still hopeful. I'm still bullish of outcomes. But, and you know, we want to minimise disruption and have it as less rocky as possible before we get an outcome. But I'm just saying it is possible to get there.
There's also reports that Orange-based hospital is basically banning non-medical abortions. Have you had a briefing about that, or do you know what's going on?
Yeah, look, I've spoken to the Health Minister this morning. That's a big concern, obviously, for the Orange community. My understanding is that those services will be returned as soon as possible, and I know the Health Minister's working diligently on that today. Hopefully we can provide an update to the community very shortly, but obviously that's a major concern for that community.
So it appears to be some sort of a more technical reason than some sort of a conscientious objection.
No, it's certainly not ideological. My understanding is it's about resourcing. That's our obligation. We need to make sure that we've got those services in place, and the Health Minister's working on that as we speak.
I think I just had an exclusive.
Yes, absolutely. Anything else? No? Sarah, you got a question? No? Maddie? No, nothing? What about those twins? What was his name? Percy and...
Oh, Sydney.
Sydney and Percy? All right, thanks everybody.